Look how early I am. Look out. I would say it's going to be a good day, but it's probably just going to be another shitty day. I could complain, but it wouldn't change anything anyways. It's been a long 35 years. Birds doing space station? Oh no. By the way, MAGA has this tendency to where they become experts on everything all the time. Now they're all experts on the space station. But not a one of them I've talked to today in the comment section knew that the SpaceX capsule has been docked there since the astronauts initially became stranded. Like they think it just went there. Like, oh, the spaceship's finally there. They're going home today. It's been there the whole time. It wasn't ready to come home yet, so they were waiting on its time to come home when it was scheduled to come home. They all thought it just went up there today. To hang out with them, get them, pick them up. But they're all experts. They all became experts on COVID and election interference and trans people. Whatever the news is about, they're all experts on it today. What is the purpose to stay 6 months? So it has a schedule. It has an offloading, unloading schedule where things are going into it, things are going out of it. And they made a decision early on when it wasn't safe enough to come back on the other capsule that they were going to come in that capsule during its return window. They made this decision a year ago or fucking months ago. I'm exaggerating. They made this decision months ago. They were going to come back. First of all, it has to have the right window to come to where it's going to land where it's supposed to, pass through the Van Allen radiation belt, all that shit. Plus, they're still offloading, unloading their finishing studies that are being, like all this shit is getting shipped back. It's the same way, like if a boat, right? Let's say you're stranded on an island and your boat isn't safe enough to take back and you're like, I'll just stay. When the boat gets there, it's got to unload all its cargo, load all its cargo back out. Maybe the crew has to change. They have to fuel it up or whatever. This decision, like Elon Musk wants to make it like Biden was like, no, don't bring them back on your rocket. He had already agreed to the schedule way before he left office. Everybody had agreed on it. The astronauts agreed. It really boiled down to they lost after the other capsule had two pretty significant incidents. They lost faith in the other capsule. It had a couple of different incidents with hydrogen leaks and other things, and they were just like, "Hey, we don't trust that one. So instead, we'll just hop on this other schedule." Yeah, it means we're going to be up here for months longer than we intended. No big deal. That's what we train. They're all trained to stay there for months and months at a time. So now instead of making the short trip, they'll come back after a longer trip, and they'll have some stuff to go through. Like they have to check them out. Obviously, a full medical. They have to regain a lot of their strength. There's a lot of things that'll happen from being in a weightless environment for so long. Usually when they're up there that long, if they do get images of them getting off the space shuttle and stuff, they'll be on gurneys, like the same way you'd see like loading in the back of an ambulance. Because the way their muscular atrophy kicks in, right, from being weightless for so long. But this decision was made. It wasn't like, oh my God, I just want to come home and Biden won't let me use this spaceship. Everybody made the decision. We're going to hit this window. Instead of using that one, which we don't trust anymore, we'll use the SpaceX capsule, and we'll just go with that window.
Hey Daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from
Hey,
TikTok.
Zaddies.
I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
I also think part of it, welcome everybody. I'm Will Bird, this is Cold Beer Confessional. I also think part of it's that Crew 9 was coming home at the same time. Didn't they all come home together? Crew 9 and Crew 8. So Crew 8 was stuck. That was the resupply, whatever. They all came home together. It wasn't just the two astronauts that were supposed to come home earlier. It was the entire crew. They finished whatever work they did. They swapped out, and they're done. I think there was even a cosmonaut on there, right? Let's see. Sorry, we're talking about space shuttles. The entire Crew 9 team, NASA's Butch Wilmore, Suni Williams, and Nick Hague, and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov made a safe touchdown off the coast of Florida Tuesday evening. Within an hour after their 5:57 p.m. ET splashdown, their capsule was hauled onto a recovery ship. Safety checks were completed, and the astronauts disembarked their spacecraft on rolling chairs as their bodies began readjusting to life with gravity. While they were still on board the SpaceX recovery ship, 4 astronauts were expected to undergo health checks, ensuring no medical emergencies needed to be addressed. Issues can arise when SpaceX's Crew 8 mission returned last year. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe I have the numbers wrong. The 4 astronauts had to be ferried to a hospital in Florida rather than returning to their home base, Houston, right away because of an undisclosed medical issue. The step was taken out of an abundance of caution, NASA said at the time. After they clear medical checks, Crew 9 team will travel by helicopter to an airport in Florida where they will board the flight into Houston's Ellington Field. The airstrip is just down the road from NASA's Johnson Space Center. The space agency center that astronauts call home. Once back home, the NASA astronauts will continue to undergo medical checks until they've cleared flight surgeon. In those initial days, we're surrounded by flight surgeons who look after us, and we're just getting used to life in 1G. Life back on Earth after being weightless for so many months, said NASA astronaut Warren Woody Hoberg, who piloted SpaceX's Crew 6 mission in 2023. Political and space officials celebrate Crew 9's return. Another safe astronaut return. POTUS celebrated splashdown. Twitter, Elon Musk. We've wrapped up our live coverage. Okay, so that was the full return live coverage. Yeah, I don't think it was ever a political issue. Like Biden had already agreed, we're hitting this window with this capsule. The astronauts agreed. Everybody agreed. And then Elon gets on national television and is like, well, I told Biden we could bring him home, but he said no, he didn't want that. That didn't happen. Even the astronauts and other astronauts were like Mark Kelly. That was one of the Mark Kelly disagreements that he had with Trump. Like, no, you're lying. This isn't happening. We already had this scheduled. I did find another clip of this podcast that I like. This is, MAGA sometimes have empathy. MAGA's empathy is tied in what Trump tells them to have empathy for. Like, MAGA cares for veterans when Trump tells them to care for veterans. And if they're veterans that got fired because Trump told them they were lazy, then fuck those veterans, right? MAGA cares about other MAGA voters when Trump tells them to care about them, right? Like the one that fucking got shot in the back of the head in Pennsylvania. But when he tells them, oh, they're liars, they're cheaters, they're lazy, they're what, then fuck those MAGA voters. I think this is very interesting, an insight into how these people think about things. So watch this clip. This is from that same podcast I showed you the last time we were live.
Do you think any of these people that Trump is laying off voted for Trump?
Sure they did.
Yes.
And do you think they're getting what they voted for?
Yes, they're getting what they voted for, but they're too stupid to know what it was.
Do these people who are getting fired then?
So he just said, Dad, do you think these people that are getting laid off from the federal government, some of them voted for Trump? Yes. And do you think they are getting what they voted for? And he says, yes, they were just too stupid to know what it was.
But they're too stupid to know what it was.
Do these people who are getting fired then in your mind deserve to be fired?
Yes.
Because they're stupid?
Because they have leached off of me for 50 years. And
Again, that's what they're telling you. How do we get you to hate the federal government employees? They've leached off you. They're lazy. They won't show up. They don't do any work. It's bloated. We got people that just sit around all day. You know how hard you work. All they do is sit around all day and somebody hands them a check at the end of the month. That's what they've convinced their constituents of. And it's so weird. They were the people that would thank people for working these thankless government jobs, right? Like my dad was pretty staunch conservative, and he would thank like park rangers and shit. I can't imagine if he was still alive now, him being like, fucking lazy ass park rangers just collecting a check while they're mooching off me. But that's the new MAGA model because Trump and Elon told them to be that way.
leached off of me for 50 years, and I'm sick of it.
But they helped Trump win.
Usually, federal employees work incredibly hard, and the pay is not great. I don't know why there's this mentality that they're mooching off anything. If you go in the private sector, from a government job to a private sector job, you can like double and triple what you're getting paid. They stick around a lot of times for really good benefits. So the government a lot of times has really good benefits or good retirement or good health care or whatever. Or for stability. Same thing with like a small town. A small town, when I worked for like the city, I got paid like shit. But I had really good health insurance. I had a 20-year retirement plan that I could roll my military time into. And I really didn't have to worry about layoffs and shit. Right? They don't stick around to make free money or to be lazy or to mooch off the government. Like, if anything, you're talking about the people at the very top, like the people Trump appoints that are not getting fired. Right? Those are the people that just get stuck in a job. They have no idea what they're doing. They cut this, slash that, check this, sign that, and then Trump makes sure they get paid. It's not the regular, everyday government employee. Like, what the fuck?
Win.
Fine. Good for them.
And so the first thing that happens in Trump's America, because they're stupid.
Because they have leached off of me for 50 years, and I'm sick of it.
But they helped Trump win.
Fine. Good for them.
And so the first thing that happens in Trump's America after they voted for him is He fires them. He ruins their lives.
He fires 10% of the dead weight.
And you're cool with that?
I'm all for it.
Everybody's
In fact, I'd chop off 20.
everybody's squealing because they are cutting the fat.
You are just whining.
Hang on a minute, though. I'm all for government efficiency. It is obviously a broken system. I'm all for making it better. Mom, what do you think about these people who were fired that voted for Trump? Do you have any sympathy for them as fellow Trump supporters?
Yes, I do. They're in a bad situation where now they have to go find another job.
Okay, so Trump...
By the way, this guy worked at like a factory for like 40 years. The dad. The mom was a school teacher and retired underneath a teachers union. Like, while they're telling other people they don't deserve that security.
clearly has shown that he doesn't give a shit if you voted for him or not. He will ruin your life. Where do you think that ends? Is it just with these people he's laying off? Is he going to start ruining other Trump voter lives?
That's crazy that you're even saying that. Now, it's funny that the other presidents ahead of him, Biden cut jobs, so did Obama, but nobody was whining the way they are, the way you guys are.
Dad, do you...
Why would this be like national news everywhere if this wasn't something different, right? If this was just like, oh, well, you know, some government workers got laid off because a contract got canceled. Obviously, this is different, right? Coming in and saying we're getting rid of 20% of the VA. 20% of the employees of the VA. That's much different than some federal employees got restructured and moved around. It's even different than when Clinton did it with like Congress and shit, right? He went through Congress. It's wild that the president's largest donor is getting to make these decisions. I don't understand how else it's wild that the president's largest donor is getting to make these decisions. It almost seems like they're setting up a system to where if you donate enough, you get a spot at the table. And that's not the way it's supposed to be, technically. At least hide it from us. Jesus Christ. At least do their bidding secretly, not put them in charge of setting themselves up for life. Shit's wild. Anyways, we went to court today. Kyle's a bitch. That's my own personal opinion. He didn't show up again. So if you don't know, we've been to court twice. Once for a temporary restraining order that he filed and said that we were stalking him, harassing him, and tried to kill him with my car because I drove past him once with my kid in the car. He bailed on that. He didn't show up to court for that. And then this one was for the weird-ass complaint that he filed for Mariah being mean to him online by sharing the truth around a couple posts that he made. And he claimed he just put liable, L-I-A-B-L-E, liable 10K. The judge told him that he gave him like a month to amend the complaint because that's not a valid legal complaint. He made the most hilarious email to amend the complaint, which wouldn't have held up in court anyways, which we will read on the Patreon show. I'm going to release the manifesto to Patreon soon. He makes the most hilarious... Hold on. I'll read part of it. So the judge told him, like, hey, go amend this complaint. Like, make an actual legal filing. Like, we've read tons of legal filings, right, on the show. The judge tells him, like, go make a legit legal filing, right? This doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't, you haven't stated a claim on which, you know, you can even recover damages or that they violated you and something. Like, you've got to do something else. So he decides to send an email out. Actually, I got it right here. He decides to send an email. Now, the clerk doesn't get to make legal decisions. So when he sends an email, they just have to forward it to us as certified. They don't get to make the legal decisions. But when the judge actually saw it, like the judge laughed out. He's like, I'm sure you saw this, whatever this is he filed. And we were like, yeah, we saw it. So again, the judge tells him to file like actual legal documents. He actually advises him like several times to get a fucking judge or to get a fucking lawyer. Like, get a lawyer. I can't tell you you have to have a lawyer, right? You're allowed to represent yourself. But if this is what you're coming with, get a lawyer. This is what he files. On 11/16, the date's wrong. Right off the bat, the date's wrong. It was actually like a week and a half after this. But he says on 11/16, defendant Mariah Bird publicly posted content about plaintiff Kyle. Now, then he makes conclusions about this public posted content. He says, with intent to harass, defame, and humiliate the plaintiff. Subsequently, on 11/17, which would be the next day, again, date still wrong. On 11/17, defendant William Byrd, I'm not a defendant. I was never served in this case. So everything here is null and void. But he says defendant William Byrd, that was one of the things he was supposed to do with amending his complaint, was if he wanted a complaint against me, he has to add me to it. I have to be served, all that shit. So he says defendant William Byrd posted publicly a 2-hour-long YouTube video. Also, again, he makes a claim, a legal finding, meant to harass, defame, and humiliate the plaintiff. Plaintiff requested defendants to cease and desist multiple times. I don't think he ever made a request to cease and desist. He argued with Mariah, and then he started attacking random people on Facebook, thinking they were like fake accounts with me and Mariah. Whatever. Defendants refused multiple requests and continued efforts to harass, defame, and humiliate plaintiff. He just keeps going with the same harass, defame, humiliate. As a result, harassment from defendants have caused severe mental anguish to plaintiff. I think he must have just copy and pasted. He typed in legal documents and they copy and pasted a bunch of shit, including the ability to help himself and his daughter recover from the impacts of Hurricane Helene. He owns a property. He owns 2 properties. One of them had some downed trees from the hurricane that were fixed completely for free. Like a volunteer group came out and cut up all the trees. And he owns another property that was not affected in any way, shape, or form by the hurricane. So I don't know how he couldn't. This is like a sympathy thing, right? I can't recover from the hurricane because they're harassing me by living at their home, I guess. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests that this court enter judgment against the defendant for $10,000 plus cost and reasonable attorney fees. So not like I'm going to make a case, not that I have evidence, not that I'm going to present this case, not that I'm going to prove that this is what happened. Just, hey, we want a judgment. I want a judgment of $10K now. The guy's a fucking lunatic. The first time we were in court with him, that when he actually did show up, he told the judge that he was an expert in North Carolina law. But since we were in Tennessee, he had no idea what he was doing. And I get it. Laws change from state to state. But you think if you were an expert in North Carolina law, you could at least put together a complaint in Tennessee law. Pretty fucking similar. Pretty similar. But you never know. You'll have that on these big jobs. Big jobs. That's the Kyle debate. We'll do a Patreon show probably tomorrow, and I will release I got a full manifesto. Let's see. I got this full document. We'll go through it and read through it. I got all the screenshots where he called CPS, then lied about calling CPS, then bragged about calling CPS and about how he was going to have our kids taken away and take our home and we were going to be broke because he's not some dumb hillbilly. He knows people. He told somebody, you guys are familiar with the terms heads of state, right? Heads of state. When I say heads of state, that doesn't even refer to like the leader of a state. Heads of state means like presidents, prime ministers, okay? That means leaders of country. That doesn't even mean, like if I say heads of state, that typically doesn't even include like the governor of Tennessee. I'm talking about like fucking Putin and Trump and fucking prime ministers and shit, right? He told somebody to be careful helping at the campgrounds to clean up, right? Because we've been cleaning up after the storm. Because his family knew people, and there would be heads of state showing up at the campground to make sure heads are going to roll. In fact, he's so unhinged. This is my biggest complaint. He's so unhinged that in this text message, which he thought was private, which we had all of them from the get-go, in this text message, he said, he was talking to another person that lives there that has a kid. He said, you better be real careful if you bring your daughter down there. It's about to get bad. What type of threats involves that kids shouldn't be around? Like, what the fuck are you planning? Like, I got kids, and you're telling this other person, like, don't have your kids there because I'm going to do something that could harm children? You fucking psycho. Not to mention those texts were interweaved with other texts of him saying, hey, man, can you get me some cocaine? And the guy's like, no, I don't really mess with that anymore. Well, can you do it just this one time? No, I don't. That was when I was young and parties. I don't do that stuff anymore. And he's like, yeah, but you could probably get it once, right? He was like Bert, but with cocaine. So we'll go over the manifesto tomorrow if you guys want to. That'd be fun. We'll do it on a Patreon show, and we'll just do all levels because I kind of missed the Patreon show last week. We'll do all levels of Patreon, and then we'll go over the manifesto and go through it. But we did win. Both cases are dismissed, and the judge promised that we had to remind him, like, hey, we were just here exactly a month ago, and he didn't show up then again. We think, like, he's weaponizing. Basically, what he was trying to do is either see if we wouldn't show, maybe, so he would win automatically, or maybe we wouldn't get a lawyer, so we'd be as retarded as he was in court. I don't know. Or just try to waste our money and time, right? Because it did cost money. It did cost time. We had to miss things. We had to come up with different plans, get kids to school and stuff, because it's an all-day thing when you go to court. Like, you don't know when they're going to call your case, so you're basically there from 9 a.m. until whenever court's over, or they call your case and you can leave. I don't know which one it was, but either way, the judge was like, we told the judge, like, he's clearly weaponizing the system against us. Like, he got a temporary protection order because he needs protection from us, right? And I'm not allowed to go around him because he's afraid. But also, he's sitting at the end of my driveway every day, right? He says he's so afraid that he needs protection against me. Like, I told him I had a firearm and that I tried to kill him with my car, but that every day when I wake up and leave the house, he's at the end of my driveway just hanging out for no reason whatsoever. Like, those things don't coincide. So we told the judge about that. And he's like, if anything else comes up again in this matter between you guys again, I'll take that into account. Like, obviously, he's doing this for some reason and then not showing up. It seems like he's trying to, and between that and the CPS thing, obviously he's trying to weaponize the system again. He thinks that he can make the right phone calls or follow the right paperwork and he can get us somehow, right? I just don't think I'm not some dumb hillbilly. I'm not either, motherfucker. I'm not either. We had this breaking news story come out.
Every Sunday night during session, I say goodbye to my wife and kids and make the 3-hour trek to St. Paul to fight for our way of life, because day after day, it is under attack from Metro liberals.
A Minnesota state senator just arrested, accused of soliciting a minor for prostitution. 40-year-old Senator Justin Eichhorn is a Republican representing Grand Rapids. Bloomington police say that detectives posed as a 16-year-old girl and arranged to meet with him in Bloomington. Well, he was arrested after arriving in the area of the meeting spot.
Every Sunday night during...
This is the same guy from Minnesota that was a co-sponsor of two different bills. One that basically said trans people are predators, right? And wanted to co-sponsor a bill to where any kid at any school in Minnesota could call another kid trans, and just making that claim would force them to stop playing sports, shut down that sport, have their parents have to take them and go get them tested. And it could up to and include like DNA, testosterone levels, visual genitalia inspection, right? Because trans people are fucking horrible monsters. And two, the other bill that he co-sponsored that just came out a few days ago, literally the day that he went to meet a 16-year-old to fuck. Literally the day that he thought he was in a sting operation, but he thought he was going to meet a 16-year-old to fuck. He introduced a bill to call Trump derangement syndrome a mental illness. And he co-sponsored that bill, submitted it in front of the House, got off work that day, and drove 45 fucking minutes to go try to fuck a 16-year-old in a police sting. Police in Twin Cities say Minnesota Republican state senator has been arrested for allegedly trying to solicit sex from a minor. According to Bloomington police, detectives communicated with a man identified as 40-year-old Justin Eichhorn of Grand Rapids, who thought he was talking to a 16-year-old girl. And this wasn't like Predator Poachers or some of those YouTube channels. This was like a police sting. He thought he was talking to a 16-year-old girl. Eichhorn was most recently one of the authors of the bill Minnesota State Senate Republicans to define Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness. The detective arranged to meet Eichhorn Monday on the 8300 block of Normandale Avenue, police say, and Eichhorn later arrived in a pickup truck. He was then arrested without incident. So it wasn't just talking. It wasn't just flirting. All these things are bad. But he showed up to meet her at her house to fuck what he thought was a 16-year-old girl. That's insane. Eichhorn is in custody and will be transported to the Hennepin County Adult Detention Center. Felony charges of soliciting a person under 18 years old to practice prostitution. He was going to pay her for it. Pay for it. I'm sure this is like a Craigslist or like a back page sting. When they said prostitution, that means that he wanted to pay for it, not like he was like grooming or whatever. He's going to pay for it. Are pending from the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. WCCO left a message for Eichhorn's legislative assistant on Tuesday, but has yet to hear back. Damn it. I wonder why he didn't respond right away. And then to have this disgusting commercial, like I have to leave my family to go save you from the liberals.
Session.
Why don't you stay with your family and stay the fuck away from little kids, you nasty fuck?
I say goodbye to my wife and kids and make the 3-hour trek to St. Paul to fight for our way of life, because day after day, it is under attack from Metro liberals.
Minnesota.
From Metro liberals. He wants to save his way of life. His way of life is trying to pay 16-year-olds to fuck. Minnesota Republicans say alleged conduct demands immediate resignation. So even the Republicans are calling him out. Good on them. Minnesota Senate Republicans released a statement in response to Eichhorn's arrest. We are shocked by these reports, and this alleged conduct demands an immediate resignation. Justin has a difficult road ahead, and he needs to focus on his family, the statement said. Minnesota House Republican leader Speaker Lisa Demuth are from Cold Spring, and leader Harry Niska, Republican for Ramsey, also released a statement. Given the seriousness of the charges, Senator Eichhorn should resign. While he is entitled to due process, we must hold legislators to a higher standard. The Minnesota DFL party released a similar statement calling for Eichhorn's immediate resignation. No one who solicits children belongs anywhere near public office or the state capitol. Minnesota DFL Executive Director Heidi Cruz Kaplan said, the facts presented by the Bloomington Police Department make it clear that Senator Eichhorn is an immediate danger to the public and must resign immediately. Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy, DFL St. Paul, called the accusations disturbing. The felony allegation against Senator Eichhorn is deeply disturbing and raises serious questions that will need to be answered by the court, as well as his caucus active. Eichhorn is among GOP lawmakers calling for DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell to resign after she was charged with burglary last spring. Her trial is set for June, and she has pleaded not guilty. So he was one that was... So this person, I don't know anything about this case, but imagine calling for somebody to resign over a burglary charge, but you're not going to resign. You haven't resigned yet for soliciting a minor for sex. Last month, Eichhorn wrote an opinion piece published in the Pine and Lakes Echo Journal criticizing Governor Tim Walz's budget proposal. In the piece, Eichhorn stressed that legislators, in part, must strengthen families, empower parents, and crack down on rampant fraud. What a piece of shit. Let's read about this burglary charge. Ethics panel deadlocked over DFL Senator Mitchell ethics complaints, declined to take action until later. A Minnesota Senate panel on Thursday discussed a new ethics complaint against embattled DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell, who faces 2 felony burglary charges, but members didn't take any further action. At issue are 2 filings. First, GOP lawmakers amended a previous ethics complaint related to the alleged home invasion last April, for which Mitchell has pleaded not guilty. They cite an additional evidence stemming from an additional felony charge, for possession of burglary tools. Those probably happened in the same incident. Let's see if we can find the incident. Oh, it's her stepmother. Nicole Mitchell pleads not guilty to burglarizing stepmother's home. Minnesota senator has pleaded not guilty to burglarizing home of her estranged stepmother after her father's death. This doesn't... Wait. This doesn't seem like cut and dry burglary. Did she want some of her father's belongings and the stepmother wouldn't give them to her? Because I'll bust up in a motherfucker's house if I have to. Senator Nicole Mitchell, a Democrat from the St. Paul suburb of Woodbury, was charged in April. She told police at the time that she broke into the home in northwestern Minnesota town of Detroit Lakes because her stepmother refused to give her items of sentimental value from her late father, including his ashes, according to the felony criminal complaint. I don't think these are the same. I don't think these are even close. In a joint court filing on Tuesday, defense and prosecution attorneys said Mitchell was pleading not guilty and was asking the court to schedule both a settlement conference and a jury trial. The 2 sides also agreed that prosecutors won't be able to argue that Mitchell stole a laptop computer that police seized when they arrested her. Ownership of the laptop had been in dispute. The agreement says that the prosecutors can, however, use evidence from the laptop if the case goes to trial. I understand this isn't the proper way to do this, but I had to do this over some shit my dad had. And people wanted to fucking... Oh, I haven't seen that. I don't think that's here. Okay. I've got the serial number on it. Like, I'll just call the fucking police. Oh, we just found it. I didn't even know that was here. Yeah, I keep the serial... I sold that to him, to my dad. And I keep the serial number on everything that I fucking purchase in that context. Fucking pieces of shit. Anyways, these are vastly different things, I believe. Probably not the way to handle it, but definitely not the same as soliciting a minor.
Decision delayed. A Senate panel weighing an ethics complaint against DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell pressed pause again.
They're waiting until after her next court date before they take any action. Mitchell faces 1 felony count of first-degree burglary in connection to a break-in at her stepmother's home in April. Caroline Cummings has the latest on the political fallout from those allegations.
I am calling the Senate Subcommittee on Ethical Conduct to order.
It was all wrapped up in 20 minutes. The Ethics Subcommittee delayed action again on an ethics complaint against Senator Nicole Mitchell that argues she violated Senate rules and brought the chamber into, quote, dishonor and disrepute.
We have no new information or changes that we would perhaps decide to go ahead and conclude for the day.
The new date to reconvene, July 25th. That will follow the next hearing in her criminal case on July 1st. She was initially due in court this week, which is why last month the panel sought to delay action until today.
By July 25th, this case will not be substantially advanced to the point that there would be new information.
There's some leeway to reconvene sooner if there's any new information. Republicans are awaiting a ruling from a judge that could authorize the release of police body camera footage.
Depending on this story, I kind of feel bad for her. Like, there's a way that she just did it really shitty. Like, never said anything, never did anything, never tried the, talking to the person or whatever. Then there's a way that's like, hey, I probably would have done that.
Footage capturing the alleged burglary.
And I think that might be helpful to the ethics subcommittee hearings.
The political fallout is mounting. In the last few weeks, a growing list of Democrats, including Governor Tim Walz and DFL Party Chair Ken Martin, have called for her resignation.
Mitchell missed a deadline last weekend that would have put a special election for her seat on the same day as the general election in November had she resigned. But her attorney says Senator Mitchell has no intention of doing that.
Some political dynamics have shifted. The legal dynamics are what they are here.
In St. Paul, Caroline Cummings, WCCO News.
Mitchell's attorney says he doesn't think her case will be wrapped up for several months. The Minnesota legislature will convene again in January.
Well, there you go.
Understand had been doing work.
I can't believe this dude was trying to solicit a $6, and then he's got this disgusting like, I have to leave my family because the Metro liberals, the Metro liberals want to destroy our way of life. I found this one that I thought was interesting. I don't know what's going on here, but has anybody ever been to Georgia State University? It seems on base, right? No, I don't think I can play all the music. I bet I'll get a copyright strike. So there's some music playing. Let me do this. I'll mute it there. 9 Inch Nails, that's right. Anybody know what's happening here? I think she's wearing a face mask, like an athletic face mask, in her mobility wheelchair, in fishnets, and like a leotard, while pulling the leash of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I don't know. I don't. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like. It looks like the other one. What's the one who got hit with the volleyball? It looks like Peyton McNabb. I mean, it's a little crazy, right? What type of mask is she wearing there? Is she carrying around a full fucking, power bank? The fuck is she powering?
Bray Nike just resubscribed for 32 months.
When they say pick your battles, this is not it. That's probably true. Thank you for resubscription. And then he's trying to put the sign back. Oh, a QR code to scan. And it just says GSU is not a real place. So the right is calling out Harry Sisson. You guys remember Harry Sisson, right? He is a left-wing political content creator. So for the longest time, the right was like, oh, he's gay. He's so gay. He's the gayest person ever. He couldn't get a girl. He's so gay. He's so gay. He's so gay. He's so gay. He's gay. He's gay. Can't be anything but gay. Now it comes out that he was talking to multiple girls at the same time, but didn't let them know that he was talking to multiple girls at the same time. So now he's an abuser. He was abusing multiple women at the same time. That gay. That's how gay he is. He's so gay that he was abusing multiple women at the same time. Here's the girls complaining.
Us, hey, if he had flat told us, hey, I am talking to other people. When we asked, when all like a fucking dozen of us asked, hey, are you talking to anybody? Instead, he lied and said he did not have a roster and that he was not talking to anybody. If he had.
I mean, maybe this is going to be the thing that takes him down. Maybe it makes women not like him as much. But I don't know that this is that big of a gotcha, right? Basically, they spent years calling him gay. And it comes out that he's like talking to like 11 or 12 women at the same time. They're not even dating. They were just texting each other. And some of them sent sexy photos back and forth. I just don't know that this is the gotcha. I don't know. Maybe it'll destroy him. I have no idea. Maybe he needed everybody thinking that he was gay all the time.
I didn't know until today that you married a man who's a lot older.
Yes.
He's 59, you're 27.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I met my husband during my...
She needed money, and he funded half of her campaign. What do you mean, how did that happen? You think he could at least get you that upper lip filled.
You married a man who's a lot older.
Yes.
He's 59, you're 27.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I met my husband...
In fact, he specifically told the girls that, like, wanted more, that he did not want a commitment. Like, I don't want a commitment. And they were upset about that as well.
That you married a man who's a lot older.
Yes.
He's 59, you're 27.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Why does she act like, oh, you used a potty for the first time? How'd you do that, big guy? Why does Megyn Kelly act? How did that happen? She has a vagina and he has money. And those two things are like magnets. How did that even happen? How did it happen? How did it happen?
I met my husband during my congressional...
Today that you married a man who's a lot older.
Yes.
He's
I love it.
7.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I met my husband during my congressional campaign. A mutual friend of ours hosted an event at a restaurant that he owns up in New Hampshire and invited my husband, and I was speaking, and we met, we were acquainted as friends, and then we fell in love, as you said. And
was there any...
He basically funded like half of her fucking campaign that she lost.
Like, I can't date him. He's 59.
Yes,
57,
of course. I mean, it's a very atypical love story. But
atypical.
Incredible. He's my greatest supporter. He's my best friend. He's my rock.
I didn't know until today that you married a man who's a lot older.
Yes.
He's 59, you're 27.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I met my husband during my congressional campaign. A mutual friend of ours hosted an event at a restaurant that he owns up in New Hampshire and invited my husband, and I was speaking, and we met, we were acquainted as friends, and then we fell in love, as you said. And
was there any I can't date him, he's 59
yes,
57,
of course.
whatever.
I mean, it's a very atypical love story, but he's incredible. He's my greatest supporter. He's my best friend. He's my rock.
I didn't know until
By the way, in court today, me and Mariah heard this really horrible story, but it kept getting less horrible. So we were sitting in court, and have you ever been to court? There's like evictions and stuff, civil court, right? Evictions and stuff they go on. And this couple was getting evicted. They had lived at this trailer park for like 12 years, and they owned the trailer. But it's basically too old to move. It's like a 60s or 70s model. It's too old to move, right? And the guy who owns the trailer park, whoever his company was, him or his company, had just bought it like 2 or 3 years ago. And they claimed that they didn't see him for a year, so they just quit paying their rent for a year. But then he demanded all the rent, and they paid it all in a lump sum. And he was asking them, they didn't have a lease, right? They had no lease whatsoever. It was month to month to month to month. And he was kicking them out. But as way of, the judge is like, oh, there's not much I can do for you. You guys don't have a lease, right? That's the way the system's set up. If you don't have a lease and he wants you to move, the most I can do is give you 10 days. That's the most I can do. But then the judge found out that they had paid through the month, so he was going to let them go all the way through March 31st. And it sounds very sad, but then we find out that they were in a single-wide, 2-bedroom trailer, a 1960-something model, with 6 kids, and multiple pets, and 3 outdoor storage sheds, and hadn't been doing any of the lot upkeep. It kind of made me think, yeah, I can kind of see. It was really sad. Like, they're like, well, the judge is like, well, you guys can go outside in the hall and talk about it if you want to. If you think you can reach a mutual agreement if you're paying rent now. And the guy's like, no, I just want to get it over with. That's sad. I don't know. That's sad. I don't, man, it'd be tough to be a landlord like that. And I understand the landlord guy doesn't want their trailer. He's probably going to tear it down. But there's not a good way to move like a trailer that's that old. Like, it's not worth the money that it would cost to move it, I guess is what I'm saying. MAGA and Musk. They are the Whitakers.
Huge breaking news right now. A complete civil war has broken out between MAGA and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, to the point where Elon Musk is now censoring MAGA influencers on Twitter. Elon Musk went out of his way overnight to strip the verification of a number of top MAGA influencers, including Laura Loomer and others. He also removed all of their subscribers.
Oh, I don't think this is recent. I think this is a replay. I think this is of the H1B stuff, right?
No longer monetized. They can't make any money. So much for free speech, right? Well, I guess it's only free speech when you don't attack Elon. But MAGA is completely turning on Elon Musk and Ramaswamy because of comments they made.
By the way, MAGA has a new enemy. Guess who their new enemy is? Guess who MAGA's brand new enemy is? Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roberts. Because he came out and said, here's his quote: "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision." For 200 fucking years, when a judge makes a decision against you, you don't spend millions of dollars and billions of likes on social media to impeach them. You appeal it. The Supreme Court's more than welcome to pick it up, right? The appellate system, go through that. It's very crazy that not only are they calling for the impeachment, they're just ignoring them. So I don't know if you've seen it, but like they've just so with the Venezuela. So it's really scary that Trump has done this, the Foreign Enemies Act or whatever, right? He's invoking that because he can say that anybody, typically they would have to be from like Venezuela, but we don't even know that's true. We don't even know that they're from the country that he sent them to. Right now, he's finding people within the system that he doesn't like. And maybe they're all hardcore Venezuelan gang members. Maybe they're all not. But he's declaring that they are Venezuelan gang members and shipping them off to prisons in Venezuela. And a judge said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Is there any proof? Is there any proof that they are Venezuelan gang members? Nobody responded. So she said, well, you can't deport them until we see something, right? It could be your neighbor. And he's like, oh, Venezuelan gang member? Yep, you're out of here. It could be literally anybody. Or maybe they're all gang members, and that would be great. Let's get them all out of here. But we have no proof. And the judge is like, you can't deport them. And they're like, too bad. The plane already left. I don't even think that's the most egregious one. They got that, who's the, hold on. They deported the Brown University professor who is like a kidney transplant specialist. They deported her. I'll just read the story. Hold on. Let me grab it. So the claim is the judge said you cannot deport her until she has her day in court. Boom. Done anyways. Homeland Security says professor deported to Lebanon with U.S. visa supported Hezbollah leader. Now, this might be true, and maybe this is grounds for deporting somebody if they have proof of this, right? But the judge is like, let's see the proof. Boom, she's just gone. Homeland Security officials on Monday said that a doctor from Lebanon who was deported over the weekend, despite having a U.S. visa, openly admitted to supporting Hezbollah leader and attending his funeral. The department's statement posted on social media provides a possible explanation for Dr. Rasha Al-Wahi's deportation, which has sparked widespread alarm, especially after a federal judge ordered that she not be removed until a hearing could be held. Ordered, she cannot be removed. Oh, El Salvador. I kept saying Venezuela. Ordered that she not be removed until a hearing could be held. Government lawyers have said customs officials did not get word until after she was already sent back to Lebanon. Okay. Saying something like their tattoos should be similar is silly. We don't know who any of them are. They could have no tattoos. We don't know. He just rounded up a bunch of people, said they're gang members, get rid of them. Similar tattoos would be something that you could show in court. They didn't. It says, a visa is a privilege, not a right. Glorifying and supporting terrorists who kill Americans is grounds for visa issuance to be denied. This is all true, but can they prove any of this? This is common sense security. Homeland Security said in its statement. In the latest deportation, a foreign-born person with a U.S. visa after Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil, who helped lead protests of the Gaza war at Columbia, University was arrested and a doctoral student's visa was revoked, the Trump administration also transferred hundreds of immigrants to El Salvador, even as a federal judge issued an order temporarily barring these deportations. Stephanie Marzouk, Alway's lawyer, said she would not stop fighting to get the 34-year-old doctor back in the U.S. to see her patients where she should be. Marzouk did not immediately return a request for comment surrounding Homeland Security's allegations that she supported a Hezbollah leader. The Justice Department has also detailed its reasons for deporting Alaway in court filings, but a federal judge has sealed those documents. News outlets that obtained those records before they were sealed reported that she had photos on her phone with photos on her phone of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Lebanese militant group, for the past 3 decades. The Boston Globe reported she also had pictures of Hezbollah fighters and martyrs on her phone. According to the doctor, she follows him for his religious and spiritual teachings and not his politics, the court document stated. When asked why she deleted the photos the day before arriving in Boston, she allegedly told officers, because I didn't want the perception, but I know I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not related to anything politically or militarily. These are things for judges to decide. The fact that they're just outright ignoring judges is crazy. Crazy. And they're claiming, oh, we didn't know until the plane already left. For real? Justice Roberts weighed in because now they're calling for impeachments. Here's a video about it. What is this one?
How long do y'all think it's going to take for Donald Trump to call for the impeachment and removal of Chief Justice John Roberts?
They already are.
Give it under a week. If you have not seen the
they are not Trump, but everybody else on Twitter already is.
Latest news, John Roberts just came out publicly against Donald Trump and said, hey, in our over 200 years of existence, never has a president.
Yeah, somebody said it was a Canadian actor that appeared in the American Pie movie was arrested accidentally. And she was like in jail for like 12 days.
Called for an impeachment of a judge because they did not agree with the ruling. And yet here you are, you dumb bitch. I paraphrased at the end there, but that's basically what he said. Like I was saying yesterday, there is no universe where I can envision this man laying back and agreeing with the Supreme Court when they finally disagree with him. And I didn't even realize it was going to take less than 24 hours for that to happen. Boy, howdy. I think it's going to take less time than that for Donald Trump to come out and say, John Roberts is a liberal sympathizer. He's paid by George Soros or whoever to, say bad things about me. He's compromised.
I don't think people understand how big a precedent it is if we start removing judges that make decisions against whoever based on those decisions, whether you like them or not. Even people in these circuits know these judges, and they'll say, oh, this probably come up in such and such circuit because they're more liberal, or they're more right-wing, or they're more originalist to the Constitution, right? But if we start, your guy is not always going to be president. The guy you voted for is not always going to, well, maybe, but typically your guy's not always going to be president. Are you going to feel the same way when fucking liberals start removing conservative judges?
We should have him in. Donald Trump has never been able to hear somebody say something negative or critical about him and just let it slide. Do you think he's going to stop at John Roberts? Hell no. Grab your popcorn, place your bets. Let's see how long it takes. How long do y'all think it's going to take for...
I don't know how long it'll take Trump, but Twitter's already all over it. Have you guys seen these Carolyn Levitt memes?
The White House is making me make these videos to humanize me. Here we
Carolyn Levitt makes a bed.
are again, you dumb f***. Why don't you stop dry sucking cock for a second and pay attention? Where is it? I have to have dark sheets because I get a big period. You want to talk about being a real woman? One time I got my period so bad they had to shut down my high school. EMTs said they've never seen so much blood. Still played in my softball game, though I wore fisherman's waders tied around my ankles. Where do you think I learned to hate gay people? I went to Catholic school. I will give you a tariff, dumb c***. I don't have daddy issues. I'm just Catholic. Why can't trans people just abide by the laws of this country? According to the laws of this country, I'm not allowed to marry my father. So what did I do? I married a man that looks exactly like him. What would Jesus say? Good on you, Caroline. You found a loophole. And then we'd listen to Evanescence. The fuck's down here, Viagra? Sometimes I call sex with my husband tariff time because that's just the price I pay for letting foreign goods come inside me. I'm just kidding. He's a good guy. You wouldn't know one if it bit you on the tit. And I would know because that's how Elon makes sure I'm not wearing a wire. Hope you it's like...
There's some good ones in there. Tariff time. It's a price I pay for letting foreign goods come inside me. And you wouldn't know, a good guy, if it bit you on the tit. I should know. That's how Elon makes sure I'm not wearing a wire.
You wouldn't know one if it bit you on the tit. And I would know because that's how Elon makes sure I'm not wearing a wire. Hope you it's like this. The White House is making me make these videos humanized.
I don't know who this comedian is. Grace Elbig. But I've seen her do a couple of different characters. Here's Serial.
The White House wanted me to do some things to humanize me. This is gay and ridiculous. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is gay and ridiculous. Oh. As open as our borders, huh? You dumb fucking cunt. One time my mom tried to teach me how to make tacos. I had her deported. I'm just joking. Whereas the plan B scrambled that sweaty ball sack you call your brain and you don't get it. You know why I like milk? I'll give you one guess. It's why. My dad told me if you can't be an interesting woman, you better be a hateful bitch. What do I have for breakfast? I dip a tampon in some vodka, roll it around in some crushed up Adderall, and shove it up my ass like a real woman. You know I'm in the right bathroom when I'm doing it. Sometimes I'm in the hallway. What would Jesus do? Shoot you in the f***ing face. The White House wanted me to do some things to humanize me. This is gay and ridiculous. Oh, Jesus Christ.
She's pretty good at it. She's pretty good. I think she plays like an old lady character, too. I've seen her old lady videos. I don't know if she has any more Carolyn Levitt, but she's pretty funny. Go follow that account. I think that's the only Carolyn Levitt videos. It would appear so. Pretty funny, though. Pretty funny. Someone shared this. Let's get it over with. This Professor Dave, I very, 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 very strongly disagree with him on a lot of topics now, but he usually knows what he's talking about when he's talking about research.
Underway, along with the most orchestrated attack on science America has ever seen, you're probably going to be hearing a lot from me about the Orange Clown and his breathtaking science illiteracy. Today's installment is about some alleged blue-haired, ultra-woke transgender mice and the millions of dollars that Biden wasted on them. Let's get into it. So this all started when Trump addressed Congress on March 4th, vomiting up a long list of alleged extravagant expenses that the previous administration put upon the poor, unwitting taxpayers, gloriously uncovered by President Musk and his Dodgeball team. The whole speech is a circus sideshow from top to bottom, and we could dig into virtually every single one of his ludicrous claims. But let's focus...
Oh, by the way, I want to show you a tweet before we get too far. We're going to talk about trans malice and research and all that. But I want to show you a tweet before we get too far. I want you to think about the irony in this post. This woman's name is Insurrection Barbie. And she believes everything. Every right-wing conspiracy that exists. She believes it. Everything. Every right-wing conspiracy that someone has put out there, she believes it. Every one of them. And then she tweets something like this. The left cannot name one thing they hate Elon Musk for. They cannot name one thing he has taken away from them. Or one thing he has done to earn their insane ire. Now listen to this last line. History will study this deranged cult-like behavior. Like us watching what Elon Musk is doing in the government. She is so deep in her own cults. She can't even, like, I can understand why people don't like Joe Biden. I can understand why people don't like Donald Trump. I can understand why people don't like Kamala Harris. She is so deep, she cannot even fathom why the left would have an issue with Elon. So they must be in a cult. But you can just read through her, Jewish space lasers and all that shit she's got on her. Like, I don't. These can't be real people. They can't be real humans. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the most made up person in the world. She is literally a like throwaway side character from a political sitcom. And somehow she's real. They can't be real people. Judge who attempted to block deportation of Venezuelan gangsters previously gave probation to FBI Russiagate lawyer. Muslim group CARE accused of financial irregularities. He realized that continuously telling people that it's a good idea to allow our ships to get attacked is bad PR move, so he adjusted his strategy. Now his goal is to use foreign policy mistakes and scare people who rightfully have PTSD like Trump is Bush or Obama. Talking about they all hate Thomas Massie now. Pick a judge, the worst offender, and start the impeachment process. The process is the punishment. I don't. These can't be real people, right? Like, I see Marjorie Taylor Greene every day. At least somebody tell me this is like a bot Russian account. Like, this isn't a real person. Like, lives every day. I don't. Anyways, back to trans mice.
Focus on this one.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
No, it isn't real. If you made a list of not real things, this would be pretty high up on there. Transness is not something that applies to mice. Nobody is making trans mice. He's just saying trans because transgender issues is...
I don't think they understand what it would take to make a transgender mouse. Right? You would have to know that the mouse has an order of thinking high enough to feel like they were born a boy mouse, but they feel like a girl mouse.
Is one of the topics in the pathetic culture war he's waging that riles up his idiot supporters. Naturally, thousands of intelligent people called out this utter bullshit, mocking him relentlessly for saying such an idiotic thing, and we will explain in more detail than you want to hear how idiotic it is in just a moment. But first, this is how the President of the United States decided to respond to thousands of scientists fact-checking his ridiculous claim. Wrong, you guys. Biden totally did it. Those fake news losers at CNN tried to fact-check me, but I was right, as usual, because I'm always right, because I'm such a smart special boy, like my mommy always told me. You guys, this is not a tweet. This is not a blog post. This is from whitehouse.gov, the official website for the White House. This is what America has become. The man who holds the highest office in the country, and arguably the world, talks like a bratty teenager in official White House communications. We're halfway to idiocracy, and I'm not being even remotely hyperbolic.
I got a 3-point plan to fix everything. Department of Government Efficiency. Go.
Getting chills? Well, tough shit, because it's a fact, you guys. Biden spent $8 million to turn mice trans.
And I'm not surprised that somebody tried to throw up a poll the other day. It says like, oh, first time since 2004 that 40% of people that were polled thought that the U.S. was headed in the right direction. They haven't had a chance to fact check all this, right? The find out on like the immigrants and how far this is going to go and all that they've been lying about and that the fraud isn't there. That's not all come full circle yet. If you just took somebody and put them in a bubble and said, hey, Your government's getting rid of, criminals that aren't supposed to be here. They're finding all kinds of fraud, waste, and abuse that shouldn't be used, and we're getting that money back. We could potentially issue you a check, a dividend back from the taxes you paid. If you just put those people in a bubble without the context around it, I'm sure most people would be like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good thing. Like, I think we should audit the government. Not like this, but if I was in a bubble and thought this was a good audit, or just heard that we're auditing the government and we're finding waste, I'm not surprised by any of that. But eventually, they're going to have to answer for none of these things are true. And that's going to be like, oh, well, he just made it all up. Yeah, I don't think we're headed in the right direction then.
Trans. Those dirty transgender experiments that are totally a real thing. Then he lists the grant amounts and titles of the studies, the end. Well, that's very convincing, Mr. President. But first of all, $8 million is a completely negligible fraction of the $6 trillion federal budget, especially compared with the tens of billions of dollars sent to Israel over the past year and a half for the sole purpose of murdering Palestinian children. A convenient omission from your little list. But beyond that, some people actually know what all of these words mean, even if your cronies don't. I mean, maybe the 19-year-old Doge staffer who goes by the name Big Balls knows what some of these words mean. He seems like a real wunderkind, but I wouldn't bet any of his rich dad's popcorn money on it. Anyway, they were kind enough to attach a document linking to all these proposed studies, so let's go through every single one of these 10 scary grants with trans in them and explain what they're actually about. Spoiler alert, there isn't any waste, fraud, or abuse in any of them, so let's teach Trump a little science. First up, molecular mechanisms of hormone-mediated sex differences in wound healing. If someone took 5 seconds to read the first sentence of this grant, they would see that the first thing they address is that the cost Americans as a population spend on treating chronic wounds, or those that don't heal within 6 to 12 weeks, something which affects 1 in 50 people, is roughly $100 billion per year. Doing the math, 340 million over 50, $100 billion over all those people, that's 15 grand apiece. Assuming there is no healthcare mechanism to assist all these individuals, something which Donald Obamacare is the devil Trump truly wants to be a reality, that means 1 out of every 50 of us might have to spend almost $15,000 out of pocket. Sounds like this research could reduce the cost and improve the efficiency of treatments that millions of people will need for a collective tax investment of a measly $450,000. They also mention other afflictions that this research could have relevance towards. Weird, nothing about transgenders yet. Then they summarize what we know so far, that there seems to be a correlation between someone's sex at birth and their ability to heal wounds. Apparently, men, on average, are worse at healing wounds than women. Interesting. They go on to say that researchers have noticed testosterone and estradiol might...
Hormone mediated just means something that's influenced by the hormones in your body, right? That's why men would be worse at healing these wounds than women, or vice versa. I'm assuming this paper found that, but
specifically have some important role in these processes. But things get really confusing because it also looks like they might not be doing the same thing when examining men versus women. It would be better experimental control if we could study the effect of men taking testosterone or estradiol versus not taking them, and also the effect of women taking testosterone or estradiol versus not, so that we can figure out exactly what is going on here. They mention that examining transgender individuals would be a good idea because sometimes this is part of treatment for trans individuals. They are talking about controls.
And you just wouldn't want to take a regular healthy man and give them estrogen, or a regular healthy woman and give them testosterone, when we already have people that are doing these treatments, and we could look at how their wounds heal.
They want to utilize the fact that trans people exist in order to control for sex, to understand what a hormone does in an XX individual versus what it does in an XY individual. They don't even know if the effect of estradiol is different between sexes. They want to do that experiment, and of course we always test such things on mice first. They talk about testosterone affecting the immune system and how they want to learn more about that interaction in XX versus XY animals. Nothing so far about asking the mice their preferred pronouns. They are just looking at how exogenous, meaning externally applied, hormones might improve or hinder wound healing that they think is acting through the immune system, and how it works depending on whether you have XX or XY sex chromosomes. That's it. They used the word transgender once in a sentence just to say, hey.
I'm telling you, they have set up a system where they can search for the word transgender. And anything, if it appears anywhere, in any capacity, black, DEIA, DEI, woke, liberal, anything, apply the cream liberally. It's gone, right? Instructions for how to use a fucking cream on a rash. Gone. Out of here.
Hey, it might be a good idea to take a closer look at trans people getting healthcare because it might give us useful data to help understand wound healing and save people money. But that's too triggering to Sir Groper Cleveland, so we won't get that benefit. By the way, whichever brain-dead intern threw together this cute little document for Trump decided to highlight the most triggering quotes in the grants. Apparently, they were the most upset about, we developed new models and showed that testosterone, limits wound healing in large animals with different effects in XX versus XY animals. Controls are super woke and lame, guys. Chronic wounds are much better. Kill the study. Also, we should remember that grants in science are very competitive, with an application success rate of roughly 20 to 25%, and reviewed by a panel of competing scientists within the relevant field who would absolutely love to take a giant shit on your research proposal if they see a discrepancy in your logic. If these grants sounded like an absolute waste of money, they would get trashed. Moving on. A mouse model to test the effects of
It is super competitive to get grants.
gender-affirming hormone therapy on HIV vaccine-induced immune responses. Trigger warning. This grant contains scary words acknowledging that trans people exist. If you have the testicular or ovarian fortitude to get past the scary bits about trans people receiving healthcare, since they are in fact people, then we can move on to the science. Like the previous grant, they mention how sex hormones such as testosterone appear to influence the immune system, but those pesky sex chromosomes keep adding noise to the data. They say they could sort out the noise from the data if we could just control for sex differences. They specifically are interested in how vaccine treatments induce differential immune responses between the two sexes, and looking at gene expression differences within a sex could be an interesting way to generate hypotheses about what might be going on. Wait a minute, weren't there people in real life complaining about vaccine efficacy needing more research? I seem to recall a bunch of people whining about a recent vaccine being experimental and how we were all guinea pigs and they killed millions of people. For those people to be consistent with their wrongness, you'd think they'd be interested in experiments that could inform us about how we can prevent negative responses to vaccines, yeah? Especially if it looks like there might be
What the fuck does Freedom of Information Act mean?
sex-specific differences. Oh, but we would have to be able to control for sex. So their experimental model is essentially apply some amount of hormone to mice of a specific sex, administer the vaccine, and look at the genes that respond. It sounds like if there are treatments outside of gender-affirming care that involve hormonal treatment, and there are, it could inform us about vaccine safety that affects those completely...
Think about all the people. Think about all the fucking people that are on, like I get advertised for it all the time, that are just on testosterone replacement. And how much data, those are usually older people, right? When your testosterone levels dip when you get older. And how much that could affect their medical treatment for the rest of their lives. We shouldn't be doing these studies.
Non-trans people as well. Crazy, huh? The most triggering parts of the grant, according to, let's call the intern Rory, were apparently, we propose...
You're going to have to take all your big feelings and put them together in one sentence. Freedom of Information Act, you can't delete those files. Don't know what you're talking about.
To develop an animal model of feminizing hormone therapy to study the effects of estrogen anti-testosterone therapy on HIV vaccine-induced immune responses. And we will develop a mouse model of XHT, cross-sex hormone therapy, that recapitulates clinical hormone therapy for male-to-female transition in humans. See this word model? In science, developing a model means to create a representation of a system for the purpose of making predictions. We don't make weather models by creating literal isolated weather systems. We don't actually recreate the early universe at the Large Hadron Collider. Likewise, in biology, we don't literally create transgender mice. They are models used to mimic real-life phenomena and can be used to ask a variety of questions depending on the limits of the model. Again, there are multiple good scientific reasons for studying hormonal effects within a sex, and transgender healthcare is just one extension of direct application from this model. Apparently, it's just too much to handle that trans people are one of the immediate beneficiaries of this research, so let's just ignore research that could help anyone who receives any vaccine. Very on theme for His Majesty. Number 3, reproductive consequences of steroid hormone administration. They start off talking about how there are few studies on the effects of cross-sex hormones on fertility. This might be a good point to remind everyone that there are numerous health issues that stem from an imbalance of endogenous hormones. So, a study like this could easily pertain to what we know about a multitude of hormonal disorders, including polycystic ovary disorder, which is thought to be due to an increase in male hormone production in women, affecting around 10% of the female population. They comment on the lack of data on transgender individuals. Again, let's remind ourselves that there is a scientific reason to want to control for sex.
It looks like it just has the word transgender in all of these studies.
When studying hormones due to innate differences on average, and trans individuals just so happen to fit the bill as perfect patients for observing these effects in humans. By extension, controlling for sex in mice provides a powerful experimental model to test hormonal treatments, with the authors stating, this model provides a powerful tool to clarify the effects of T-therapy on reproductive phenotype and function in a manner not possible in humans. Despite all the things we could learn about fertility in men and women, the fact that the repercussions could include providing healthcare to trans people is much too scary. So we are now banning controlling for sex. Sorry to the 1 in 10 men and women who struggle with infertility. Donald says go fuck yourself. According to Rory, the key triggering statements in this grant were, the impact of long-term cross-sex hormone therapy on reproductive health is largely unknown, particularly in transgender men, female to male or FTM. And none of the existing animal models that address the effect of androgens on reproductive function in females are directly applicable to the clinical paradigm of cross-sex T therapy in transgender men, or GnRHA T therapy in transgender adolescents. To address this knowledge gap, we have developed a mouse model to mimic T treatment for FTM gender transition. So to summarize, there is
They're making the mice trans.
a knowledge gap.
$8 million for transgender mice.
And current models cover X relevant health issue, and they designed one that covers X+1 relevant health issues. Apparently, increased efficiency gives Donnie D Cups the runs, so let's cut him some slack. Moving on. Cross-sex, steroid therapy, and cardiovascular risk in the transgender female. Again, we need to get past the scary words talking about trans individuals and get into the actual science. They mentioned that their observations that individuals that were born male and receive hormones for gender-affirming treatment have an increased risk for cardiovascular disease. So presumably, there is a molecular mechanism underlying this phenomenon. The words talk about the benefits to trans people, but by understanding the science associated with it, this research can easily apply to cisgendered people.
I wonder if that would apply to people. I don't know if you've seen some of these people that are taking like testosterone, and there's a bunch of like shitty companies out there now that do it, like mail order, and you just see one doctor one time, they just send you testosterone and get injected with. I wonder what that has effects on your heart and shit. The same way it would if you were using it for like a steroid.
We understand the effects of hormone X in males versus females on cardiovascular health. We can come up with better treatments for anyone with cardiovascular issues. They end with how this grant will improve their skills, which is a sign that it was written by a student. So they defunded a graduate student and their science that would contribute to knowledge about cardiovascular disease because it contains words about transgender people. But who cares about people with cardiovascular problems? If you eat nothing but McDonald's every day, you deserve to die, right? Rory found this grant particularly triggering, as him highlighted several sections of it. The Alexander Laboratory has developed a novel model of feminizing hormone therapy in the male rat that involves administration of E2 to mimic physiological levels observed in age-matched female rats in conjunction with androgen suppression. In other words, they control for sex when applying hormones. A critical need involves the use of innovative animal models to provide reliable risk assessment and in-depth investigation into mechanisms that contribute to increased CV risk in adult transgender females.
Dude, the accounts, like the official Border Patrol, the official White House, the official ICE, those accounts have been taken over by a bunch of children, like making TikToks. It's crazy to go watch some of that shit.
That undergo GAHT. Yes, this would benefit trans women directly because that is the most direct application from the model. Oh no, then they won't die as much. It will also add to our knowledge on mechanisms underlying cardiovascular diseases in general, and in a way that can only be done by controlling for sex before applying hormones. Control's bad. Trump smash. AIM-1 will test the hypothesis that the shift in the hormonal milieu in gender-affirming hormone therapy in a rodent model of the trans female rat is associated with increased end organ damage and cardiovascular risk that is further exacerbated with pre-existing chronic disease. AIM-2 will test the hypothesis that increased end organ damage and cardiovascular risk in transgender females that undergo gender-affirming hormone therapy involves an estradiol-induced male sex-specific effect on the renin-angiotensin system. Translation: AIM-1 tests whether a hormone treatment cocktail used in a real-life treatment will influence cardiovascular disease. They simply use an intervention that contains relevance in real life. Scientists try to squeeze as much out of their data as possible. Why wouldn't they use a similar hormone treatment that could be applicable to humans? That's not fraud, that's called efficiency. It's starting to seem like they just did a search for the word transgender, read literally nothing
I think that's exactly what it is.
else, and pulled the money just to add an item to Trumpelstiltskin's dumb speech, huh? Next up, gender-affirming testosterone therapy on breast cancer risk and treatment outcomes. This one starts with the obvious direct benefit to trans individuals. Their experimental design of controlling for sex is also ideal for looking at effects of miRNA and testosterone on mammary gland development, carcinogenesis, and breast cancer treatments, as they point out in the very next sentence. This sentence could confuse a lot of people, so imagine how the Trump team took it. MicroRNAs are small, non-coding RNA molecules that regulate gene expression. Carcinogenesis is when normal cells become cancer cells. The rest you probably know. Anyway, by examining the effects of testosterone levels in females, we can learn about how breast cancer is affected by differences in testosterone levels, which could be beneficial to the 1 in 8 women who are at risk of developing breast cancer. You'd think Trump would give tits a pass, but not this time. They make a note that the mouse studies here are particularly useful compared with human studies because the rate of aging in mice is much faster, while breast cancer development appears to be very similar in mice, meaning they can learn about breast cancer at a much faster rate by using mice studies. And if testosterone has an interaction with the development of breast cancer, wouldn't it make sense to learn about this interaction so we can potentially make new drugs and learn about negative interactions with existing treatments and the various types of breast cancer? Why would we not do this? Oh, because it could also help trans people? Maybe it makes sense if you...
This is probably how they find out. You ever seen medicine that they give to you and it says don't even have it around like a pregnant woman, or let her touch it, or let her be in the same room when you're taking it? Now, there's some fucking crazy fucking like steroid type testosterone based medicine that you take.
Ingest bleach, eh, Donnie? If they had been able to get through one paragraph, they would have seen these knowledge will have direct implications for understanding BC risk and open up new avenues of treatment for cisgender men and...
Clear the room, put on a fresh air hood. Like it's insane, some of the medicine you take.
women as well. Oh well, it's funny how Diaper Dawn talks a big game when it comes to helping kids with cancer and is happy to use kids with cancer in a political stunt, but then actively defunds research that can help cancer patients, huh? What's next? Microbiome-mediated effects of gender-affirming hormone therapy in mice. They specify that we don't know how certain hormone treatments that are provided before puberty affect skeletal development. This includes those used for non-gender affirming care, prostate
cancer. Like, obviously these have
cancer, endometriosis, and central precocious puberty.
I just let him talk.
How blocking or inducing certain hormones can affect skeletal development. The microbiome has also been shown to be a factor in skeletal development, so they design experiments that include fecal transplants to disentangle effects from either mechanism. Would you want to know about side effects of a treatment on your child if they needed hormone therapy before puberty?
Imagine your kid has one of these things and needs hormone therapy long before they get to puberty. And we have little to no data of what side effects this could cause.
Would you like to help ensure the health of children with cancer or reduce pain in young women with endometriosis? Mango Mussolini says no, let's not, since it will also benefit trans people. What's next? Androgen effects on the reproductive neuroendocrine axis. This one should be clear as fucking day.
Oh, I especially liked when J.D. Vance the other day was doing a speech, and he's like, you see those protesters out there? It's a work day. Don't they have jobs? And it's the veterans that he fired from the VA that are marching in Washington. The veterans that his administration fired from their federal jobs that are marching. He's like, don't those guys have job? Bunch of bums. It's a Tuesday. They don't need to go to work. You fired them. Your administration fired them all.
But let's break it down anyway. Androgens are hormones typically associated with the development of male characteristics in humans, including testosterone. Although present in much lower quantities, females still produce testosterone and other androgens endogenously. Some females produce more or less on average. Levels fluctuate throughout the menstrual cycle and typically decrease with age. First word down, let's continue. Androgen effects on the reproductive neuroendocrine axis. The neuroendocrine axis refers to the hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, and an end organ system through which hormones are released based on a multitude of inputs received from throughout the body, creating hormonal feedback loops that can regulate physiological functions, including body weight, thermoregulation, hunger, fatigue, and reproduction, to name a few examples. The grant title refers to the reproductive aspect of the endocrine system. Putting it together, the title of the paper...
Imagine saying that shit, dude. Like, I understand it's like an own the libs thing, like, oh, the blue-haired libs don't have jobs. It was the veteran march, bro. The veterans who lost their fucking job march. Like, goddamn, dude.
Suggests they want to look at the effect of male-associated sex hormones on the reproductive aspects of the endocrine system. Once again, females also produce androgens, which act through the endocrine system and ensure normal reproductive function. They propose looking at the effect of androgens on a specific type of cell called hypothalamic kisspeptin neurons, which produce surges of luteinizing hormone involved in a complex cascade of events that ultimately affects reproductive capabilities in men and women. The experiments they propose are to monitor reproductive aspects of trans men receiving healthcare, because they often are treated with exogenous androgens as part of their healthcare, which we can then compare to women who are not treated with androgens. The other experiment involves using a transgenic mouse model, presumably by genetic ablation of kisspeptin neurons via KISS1 knockout, though it's not specific in the abstract.
To be fair, we've probably never had a time that it was as easy to test and to rule out, like, straight sex and hormones, right? Because we do have people that are taking hormone suppressant, a larger number of people that are taking hormone suppressants or hormones of the opposite sex, and see how those affect, right? You could control for that for the first time. And, well, I mean, you always could, especially in mice, but controlling for that in mice and how that relates to, we're going to learn a lot of this from this.
Abstract to determine to what extent the effects of androgens through the kisspeptin neurons. The results from the experiments laid out in the grant could be informative to menstrual health, reproductive health, and cancers acting through the system, in addition to trans health. It's important to note that just because a grant is funded through an initiative that aims to address knowledge gaps in the literature, this doesn't mean that its benefits are entirely limited to the scope of the initiative. As we went over in the previous grants, yes, of course they benefit trans people, but they also benefit cis people because the models they've described thus far provide a framework to make predictions in multiple forefronts of science. That means the experiments were well designed. Read for yourself. health. Indeed, high levels of exogenous androgens fundamentally contribute to reproductive disruption seen in otherwise healthy women and transgender men, female sex individuals taking high levels of androgens. Oh, look, that's pretty neat. They say right in the grant that it's applicable to both cis and trans individuals. I guess the E for efficiency in Doge really just means Control F search trans and delete without knowing what the fuck you are actually deleting. Great work, Elon. Let's take a look at what triggered Rory on this one. This proposal includes clinical studies of transgender individuals and the effects of androgen treatment on their reproductive health. Yep, that's the fucking experimental design, genius. It's like getting triggered by someone explaining the ramps and pulleys in high school physics class that will test Newton's laws. We test this hypothesis in two complementary aims that study the role of high exogenous androgens in both a clinical setting in transgender male, female sex, human subjects, and corresponding transgenic female mouse models. Using complementary experiments to corroborate results just makes it good science. It's so painfully obvious that they just grab the statement they think makes the tangerine dream appear vindicated, when in fact they just look like complete morons that don't understand what's being described in the
They literally just search for trans.
slightest. But wait, there's more. GHB toxicokinetics, role of sex hormone-dependent monocarboxylate transporter regulation, and potential for altered overdose risk in transgender men and women. The researchers state that preliminary data show that toxicokinetics regarding GHB, gamma-hydroxybutyrate, commonly referred to as the date rape drug, are altered in the presence of female sex hormones. This is supported by previous research showing that hormonal changes associated with the estrus cycle, or mammalian fertility cycles generally, may act through monocarboxylate transporters in the kidney, which are the same transporters important for GHB clearance. The research questions they want to test are: 1. Do individual sex hormones affect GHB clearance? 2. Does
This was a study about date rape drugs, and they canceled it.
testosterone make GHB overdose more likely? The only way to address these questions properly is to control for sex before applying treatment. Not controlling for sex will decrease efficiency of the science by adding unnecessary noise to the data, making analysis more complicated and wasting money, assuming this research is possible at all without these controls. If you can't understand that and are still fuming about trans mice, you're a dumb bigot, probably of an orange tint. The quotes that Rory pulled from this one really show how obsessed these idiots are with their caricature of transgender culture. Gamma-hydroxybutyrate, GHB, is a popular drug of abuse utilized at raves. Yes, people abuse drugs at raves, and also in offices, homes, streets, many places. Shall we study the drugs then? No? Use of GHB...
I guarantee you one of those fucking slimy-looking motherfuckers from the Doge team has a pocket full of fucking date rape drugs.
has been increasing in the LGBTQ community due to the prevalence of a phenomenon referred to as chemsex. Wow, some people do drugs, some people have sex, and some people even do both at the same time. Let's all clutch our pearls about the horrors of the real world. If President Pumpkin could stop fixating on chemsex, he might understand that this could also inform us on how to treat date rape victims generally. If we know that certain individuals can have worse reactions to the drug, and we know why, we can design treatments to combat the overdose. Still more, you guys. Gonadal hormones as mediators of sex and gender influence in asthma. This is probably the dumbest inclusion on this list.
In asthma? In asthma! Looks like a trans airway to me.
It is literally just proposing that we look at sex differences on asthma phenotypes. They have data showing that the inflammatory response in asthma might be triggered by estrogen. Women who go through fertility treatments often take estrogen. This is not a crazy, wacky idea. They want...
You know, I was told, when we're talking about Nick Alvear, I don't get a chance to talk about him often. I was told a while back by someone close to him that he had a fuck doll, like a fake human that you fuck, right? Not like a blow up doll, but like a latex one, and that it looked like a child. I swear on my life, I don't know if that's true, but this person was close enough to him that they're either lying or they know it. One of the, like, I don't know that that's true, but I was told that a fuck doll looked like a child.
Want to do experiments to look at the effects of estrogen on inflammatory mechanisms in mice with XX and XY chromosomes. They're not making transgender mice. They are looking at the inflammatory response in male mice and in female mice with or without exogenous estrogen. It's mind-boggling how simply having the word gonad in the grant frightens these toolboxes to the point that it depletes all rational thinking. They don't have the brain power to get past the scary words. Rory even specifically pulled out the statement, "We expect that our studies would serve to develop potential sex and gender-specific treatments and recommendations for dosage of therapeutic agents to treat and prevent asthma in cis and transgender women." It
literally says both.
Literally says cis and trans women. So I guess they just don't give...
I think now that we have a larger size of people that we are giving these hormones or hormone suppressant or hormone replacement therapy to, that we're seeing more of the effects that these specific hormones have on things, right? Like testosterone obviously has an effect on your heart, and that can be because you produce more testosterone, you don't produce any testosterone, you have low T and get testosterone later in life. Maybe you already have risk factors for heart disease, or interfere with some other medicine like that. That basically affects everybody, especially fucking asthma, dude.
Shit about women in general.
Not to mention, like the one about the hamsters fighting or whatever, that we started Hamster Fight Club. That was for like this new fucking craze of like, we have youth sports that are using fucking and performance enhancing drugs. It'd probably be good to know about that shit, since we're having like medical emergencies around it.
Who cares about their asthma, right? We need the money to pay for Elon's super cool exploding rockets that load the atmosphere up with metal oxides and nitrogen oxides, plus all the child support. Finally, we get...
I do think it's funny that all these people are like, the chemtrails, they're putting the metal oxides, aluminum oxide in the air, and it's mostly Elon's rockets exploding, but whatever.
To the last one, understanding how chromosomal makeup and cross-sex hormone...
They're like, it's beautiful, look at it explode. Is that a chemtrail? They see an airplane go by.
Affect wound healing in mice. Reports had been floating around that transgender patients had worse healing outcomes than other populations. Additionally, this pattern doesn't seem to be equal between sexes. From this observation, they propose that testosterone might inhibit mechanisms of wound healing. This grant wants to observe trans patients undergoing hormone therapy and complement it with a mouse model. Basically, the same fucking thing we've been saying this whole time. The researchers are just doing the best experiment to figure out what hormones do to the body without giving a shit whether it involves trans people or not. It's just an element of experimental control. But the best part is the last sentence in the grant, which they conveniently did not acknowledge and probably didn't even read. By filling this knowledge gap, this research may ultimately offer improved wound healing and personalized medicine therapies to not only transgender patients, but all patients. But who...
I think that's the ultimate goal, right? You go in, they fucking do a blood sample or fucking check your DNA or whatever, and you have literal medicine that's catered to you.
Cares about all patients, right? That doesn't sound like an important demographic to the Donald or any of the bloodsuckers in his inner circle. So that's it for the 10 woke trans-loving grants that Trump canceled to save a few bucks. There are a few obvious takeaways here. First, none of them wanted to make trans mice. Second, all of them referred to trans individuals as controlling aspects of hormone administration within a specific biological sex in order to see their effects on a particular aspect of animal physiology. And third, all of them outlined studies whose results would benefit all humans, not just trans people. Of course, we should also note that no matter how angry it makes conservatives, trans people do exist, making up around 1% of the population or more, and they matter just as much as cis people. So even if the studies were actually only applicable to trans people, which they aren't, it still would merit spending a few $1 million, which again is completely negligible in the grand scheme of government spending. Trans people deserve to benefit from research that they pay into through taxes, just like cis people. Given the total NIH budget of $48 billion, I think we can allow this 0.0002% of NIH grant funds to benefit 1.6% of the population. On a scientific level, the arguments used to deny funding for these grants that have already been approved by scientists as good use of tax dollars are tired and pathetic. We've heard these types of caricatures before. Sarah Palin, vice presidential nominee for John McCain in 2008, made comments about fruit fly research being a waste and taking money away from disability research. This idiot doesn't know that there is a Drosophila-based Center for Research into Autism at the University of North Carolina, which has provided decades worth of high quality and groundbreaking research, including the discovery of genes being transmitted via chromosomes, the role of Hox genes in embryonic development, and molecular mechanisms of circadian rhythms. Many scientists have written extensively on why this type of ignorance is dangerous. Other examples of silly sounding science weaponized.
Anytime you hear, I'm telling you, I used to repeat this when I was like dumb. Oh, we got shrimps on treadmills. There's always a reason. It's not to do that thing. Right? It's not to do that thing. Anytime you hear an animal on a treadmill, it's to stress that animal. To get their heart rate up, to get their hormones up, to get all it's not to to see if the animal can use a treadmill. They all can.
by clueless politicians include the shrimp on a treadmill fiasco, which was used as justification to decrease funding to science, even though it had important implications on the effects of water quality on wildlife survivability. Researcher Lawrence Tabak was under fire from critics claiming that tax money was wasted sending toenail clippings through the mail. His response encapsulated the ignorance of such critiques in a quote, stating, "What's scientifically sound and indeed cost-effective to collect biospecimens for cancer research was twisted in what was intended to ridicule an important life-saving research effort," which is basically the same playbook being used right now to defund science by claiming that scientists are making transgender mice. The lesson that I desperately wish Trump and his peanut gallery would learn is that you can't make knee-jerk judgments about scientific research without understanding the science. Some of the most groundbreaking science sounds silly when reduced to one-liners. Studying worm vulvi led to understanding retinoblastoma. Looking at how green algae phototax in response to light led to the discovery of a suite of genes that are involved in the rare developmental disorder Bardet-Biedl syndrome. Looking at how algae swim led to insights into lung diseases, including primary ciliary dyskinesia. In science, we call these phenologues, or phenotypes that may have no relevance between organisms, but derive from evolutionarily conserved molecular mechanisms. These can lead to funny-sounding studies, but it is a valid and successful approach to studying disease mechanisms. Weaponizing provocative one-liners like transgender mice to stir up drama doesn't just affect science related to transgender individuals. It affects most of the research that we all want and directly benefit from. Oh, and it makes you sound like a fucking idiot, Donald.
And if you go look through Rand Paul, his Festivus report or whatever, all of that's bullshit. Every time I've ever picked a topic to go through on that, it's always this type of bullshit. That's where shrimp on treadmills. That's where they're starting the hamster fight club. That's where all of that come out.
Thus,
by the way, Doge on their wall of receipts have some contracts that they claim they're saving for the American people. Some contracts listed on their website that ended under George H.W. Bush. And people are like, we're going to get a check in the mail. What are you going to spend yours on, Lorelei?
Ends the story of Trump and the woke trans mice, a cautionary tale that in a normal timeline would be getting Trump laughed out of office. But instead, we have to endure this sheer insanity on a near daily basis for an unspecified duration of time. What will the next debacle be? We'll just have to wait and see. Until next time.
Damn. That was rough from Professor Dave. Thank you, Professor Dave. I still think you should debate Destiny, but you won't. I guess that's it for tonight, guys. We won our court case. That was the big thing. I want to go over the auto pin thing. I would do it before we go. The auto pin thing is a joke, okay? First of all, it's already been confirmed that legislation can be signed through auto pen. As long as the president tells somebody, in his mind, he wants to sign that, he can let anybody fucking sign it, right? Anybody can fucking sign it. Second of all, if we go to the Constitution, which gives the president his pardon power, it doesn't even have to be written. In fact, there's cases where it isn't written, where George Washington just did a speech and pardoned everybody that was involved in the Whiskey Rebellion. He didn't sign anything. He didn't write it out. He didn't fucking wet ink signature. The Heritage Foundation study is completely fucking flawed because they use the Federal Register to look up these executive orders. The Federal Register will tell you, we don't have the wet ink signature. We have them sign once when they become president, and we just paste it on all of these once they're passed. Like, none of this is valid. But I think what he wants to do is signal to, like, Kash Patel and people, hey, start looking into these guys. And if someone calls foul, we'll tell them, hey, we're going off the basis that none of these pardons are valid. But it also goes to reinforce, like, people are mad at Joe Biden for pardoning his son and Fauci. And this is why. This is why. Donald Trump has hired all of his friends to do all of his bidding.
President Donald Trump with a shocking claim on social media, saying President Biden's preemptive pardons for members of the House January 6th committee investigating the attacks on the Capitol are, quote, void, vacant, and of no further force or effect.
Especially the January 6th committee. You know how bad he hates those people? Because they pointed out what he did on January 6th?
Why? The president claiming Biden used a device known as...
By the way, Donald Trump has a person in his White House that is authorized to use the auto pen for him.
It's an auto pen to sign them.
Who was signing all this stuff by auto pen? Who would think you signed important documents by auto pen?
The evidence for that claim appearing to come from a recent Heritage Foundation post.
And this isn't even true. Again, you can see it says right here, Federal Register. The Federal Register just uses an image. They don't have his wet ink signature. They don't wait for him to sign it and then somebody take it and scan it and send it over to him. They have a copy of what he's going to be signing that day. Once it's signed, they throw his signature on there, an image file, and it's done. Like, literally, the entire basis for this is flawed. There are news articles about how they flew him documents to, like, Paris and shit so he could sign it wet ink because he wanted to. He didn't have to. He wanted to.
On Twitter, showing differences in Biden's signatures in the Federal Register.
You don't use auto pen. It's, number one, it's disrespectful to the office. Number two, maybe it's not even valid.
President Biden has not publicly remarked on Trump's post, and a spokesperson didn't reply to a request for comment from NBC News. But experts say even if...
The courts have already ruled it's valid either way.
If he did use an auto pen, that would...
The only way an auto pen signature wouldn't be valid is if someone used his signature without him approving it. Like, they're like, well, I'm going to pardon my dad. Then don't ask Joe Biden, don't nothing. They go in there and write up a pardon thing and sign his name. That's the only way. But all Joe Biden has to do to counter all of this is say, I approved it. That's it. And of course he did.
Make his orders illegitimate.
The text of the Constitution in Article 1 refers to the president signing it. It doesn't say literally whether that must be, by his physical hand or not.
We've done this since like the 1800s, okay?
2005 Department of Justice memo explicitly stating that a president does not need to personally sign bills and that the president may direct, quote, a subordinate to affix the president's signature.
It's already been settled.
To such a bill, for example, by AutoPen.
The Office of Legal Counsel issued an opinion that AutoPen signatures are okay, but that doesn't have the same force as, say, a court actually making that determination.
That's what they're saying with zero fucking proof. With zero fucking proof. Zero proof. That's what they're saying. They can't just say it and it's true.
Or Congress, say, weighing in on the issue.
But what exactly is an auto pen? Put simply, it's a device that uses a pen to recreate signatures or handwriting, even if the, quote, signer is not in the room. President Obama apparently became the first president to use an auto pen to sign an actual bill when he extended the Bush-era Patriot Act while he was in France, a move that caused a bit of a stir at the time.
Use of the auto pen must be directed directly by the president.
But it's been used in the White House for decades, even centuries, for things like written communications and autograph requests. The Thomas Jefferson Foundation says our third president was known to use a precursor to the auto pen known as a polygraph for making a copy of handwritten letters. President Harry Truman is often said to be the first president to use a fully robotic auto pen in the 1950s. John F. Kennedy was said to be such a prolific user of the auto pen that it became the subject of a book, The Robot That Helped Make a President. And Lyndon Johnson's use of the machine even made the cover of the National Enquirer in 1968. Regardless of how auto pen has been used in the past, it's important to note that looking at signatures' digital copies in the Federal Register might not be the best way to see how a
because they upload an image file. So they did this whole study saying, oh, all of these match, blah, blah, blah. Of course they do. You didn't even look at the actual documents. So the entire basis for this is bullshit.
Document was signed. The National Archives, which runs the Federal Register, telling fact-checker Snopes each new administration provides a digital signature file for the Federal Register, quote, which uses it to create the graphic image for all presidential documents published. NBC News asked the National Archives for comment and has yet to hear back. But that's why many Biden signatures would look the same, as would President Trump's signatures in the Federal Register.
All of Trump's look exactly the same in the Federal Register. It's the exact same way. Because they use an image file. So when they say the president's planning on signing these documents today, they send them the documents over. They're unsigned. They're just the documents. Okay? Then they say, okay, he signed them. You can upload them. They go over to Paint. They pull up the signature and paste it, and upload it.
From both his first term and this one.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
They literally have them sign once when they first take office, and the Federal Register records that. Now, even if he's sitting in front of cameras, signing it by hand, the one at the Federal Register will just have a picture of his signature. It doesn't matter. Literally, they found a document that he had signed on camera, and he holds it up to show his signature, and they shared it beside the Federal Register image, and they're not the same. Because the Federal Register just puts an image file in, and he can sign whatever the fuck he wants. It's ridiculous. But it goes to show he was probably valid in his paranoia and pardoning those people before he left. President Trump just wants to do it for revenge. And his supporters love it. Absolutely fucking love it. Because they want a reality show. They want a reality show. So none of it's valid. None of it's going to go anywhere. None of it's going to do anything. Right? Like I don't blame Biden for not even responding. It's fucking retarded. If he would have signed every document from the day he started with a goddamn auto pen, it still wouldn't fucking matter. It still wouldn't fucking matter. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. I'm trying to flip my schedule around, come in earlier and finish earlier. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll be back. We're doing a Patreon show tomorrow, so don't expect a regular show. If you're a member of Patreon, you'll get the link. And if you're not, then I'll see you on the next day. But thank you guys for joining us. We're going to go over the Kyle Manifesto tomorrow on Patreon. If you want to be part of that, go to patreon.com/coldbeer. Support the show while we're offline, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good night. Let me see you. Bye.
But I can tell you this about if this douchebag happens to see this particular show, you don't have the forking balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott.
Here we go. I think I started some shit. Listen off. It's about to get lit. Get the place.
If any of you guys get labeled as an El Salvadorian gang member, I guess I'll see you when you get back.
Listen off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in the beds. You know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. And they say that I'm
10 to 20 years.
Listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6-inch.
We can't verify that you are a gang member or weren't a gang member. It doesn't matter. You're just gone. Nobody can look at it.
Fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping drums, cocking, begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat hammers like four in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet.
It seems like, from the people who have looked into this, immigration officials are just detaining any Latino men with tattoos at all
I used to find clues too.
and calling them gang members.
I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped them to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16.
That's insane.
With Trump in between, put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "This is gonna be it." Whoa, wait. Stop. What? I'll get my files. Wait, what are you doing? Stop. Hold on. Fucking stop. Dude, come on. Seriously. This is my mom's an alcoholic. Give me oh my God. Damn it. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't.
One of them had a "real until death" tattoo in Spanish, which is a line from a Puerto Rican musician who's a Trump supporter.
Now things are getting rocking.
He's a barber with no criminal record and no ties to any criminal organizations. Wow.
No damn research, they be working copy.
Wow.
First, 9th, and 2nd string, and they acting like they.
Of course.
Assholes throwing bullshit shit.
Have a good night.